Naomi, and today I'm going to be planting out some cannas. I've got 3 cannas here and I'm going to plant them straight into this patio pot. This is about 12 inches wide and it's just about the right size for putting in 3 canna bulbs for a really nice bushy display through the summer. Now there are 2 ways you can start off cannas. If you get them in early spring or from March onwards when we start shipping them out, you need to start them off in a greenhouse or somewhere warm or indoors because they're not frost hardy. So the best thing to do if you want to start them off early in the spring and give them a bit of a head start so you've got something nice to plant out from about May onwards is to pot each rhizome up individually into a small pot and grow it on first. And then by about May it should have some good leaves on it, and then you can tuck it into your planting schemes, and usually by around mid-May risk of frost has passed and it's warm enough for them to grow very nicely. But now it is mid-May, you can leave planting your canna rhizomes straight out to now. So you can put them straight into borders by digging a shallowish hole in the border. Make sure it's nice and free of weeds and clear, and maybe mix in a little bit of compost so it's nice and soft for them to put their roots into, and then cover it back over, give it plenty of water every day, or you can plant them into patio pots like I'm going to do. So I've got 3 Canna 𝗱𝗲ះ'𝗀𝗲 here. I'm going to put them in my pot, which has got a drainage hole at the bottom, and a multi-purpose compost. And this, I've filled it almost all the way up to the top. I've just got a few inches spare at the top. This is the level I'm going to plant my cannas at. Now, I have 3 lovely healthy canna roots here, or rhizomes. And when you get them earlier in the spring, they may not have these growth tips on them. It's really obvious to tell to see which way up you plant them when they look like this, because you can see it's already making its own way. It's got some shoots on it. When you receive them earlier in the spring, they might not have these shoots, but they should have some eyes or little lumpy bits, small buds which you'll be able to see. So you just want to make sure that most of those ones, you might have 2 or 3 on yours, and that those buds or eyes are facing upwards on the root, and you plant it horizontally like that. So I'm going to position them on this soil surface here. And there. When you're planting them in borders, you can plant them a bit further apart because they do get nice and leafy and bushy, and you could probably plant them a couple of feet apart from each other, or 1 foot if you want it to be really dense. In a pot you can get away with planting them closer together, so I'm just planting them about 15 centimetres apart from each other. And they should get along just fine in there over the course of the summer. So I've positioned them all on there with the eyes facing upwards, and they'll be planted about 10 centimetres deep there. And now I just top up with some more of this compost. And because these already have some shoots on them, may even be poking out slightly when you plant them. And then you can just literally watch them grow, especially when the weather's really lovely and warm. They'll speed up nicely. There we go. So it's mid-May now. Those will start to produce leaves fairly quickly now that it's nice and warm. Put them in a sunny spot. They're going on a sunny patio. And then in about a month's time there'll be some small leaves, and then they'll just continue to grow until you've got some lovely long, tall, sturdy, upright stems, and they'll have leaves all the way up. And it's the leaves of cannas that are particularly the real showstopper, really. Some of them have really nice patterns, but they also bring a really nice lush tropical vibe as well to the planting scheme. They look great with things like dahlias, which flower all summer long. And then the icing on the cake towards the end of summer is at the top of the stem you get this lovely brightly coloured flower, and that just tops it off really to end the season with a nice splash of extra colour. So don't expect flowers in the middle of summer. You'll get them at the end of summer. In the meantime, it's the leaves that are the main thing. And they make lovely combination plants for tropical planting schemes, and even traditional borders with flowers. They really do combine well with anything. So now I've topped that up with soil, left about 1 inch at the top. Cannas do like quite a bit of water, so give them a good soak after you've planted them. There we go. That is a good soak. Let's just water them until the water drains out the bottom of the pot to make sure they're nice and moist, and then put them in a sunny spot. And then you need to water them. Well, if you're growing them on early in the season, early in the spring, you won't need to water them very often because obviously the pot won't dry out very quickly. And while they're still dormant, you don't want to water them loads because that can make them rot if they're not quite warm enough to start growing yet. So if you're planting them in spring and they're still dormant and it's still quite chilly, only water them when the surface, top couple of inches of the soil looks completely dry, and then just top up with some more water. So don't keep them soggy. But if you're planting in the warm weather and it's going to be mild and consistently warm, you can give them a good soak every day from about mid-May onwards after you've planted them, and then that will keep them nice and happy. They do like a good drink, especially when they're in full growth, so keep an eye on watering with those, especially when in a pot, because pots can dry out quickly on sunny days. And then, so they'll produce nice bushy plants, quite tall as well. In the autumn, just before the first frost, or you can wait until the first frost comes and touches the leaves and makes them all well, you'll be able to tell they won't look nice anymore once they've had a frost on them. So at that point you can cut off the foliage, lift out the bulbs, and store them over winter if you want to, in a shed or a garage, in trays with a loose covering of compost over the top, just to keep just dry compost, and that's enough just to keep their own moisture inside the bulb. And you can use them again next year. Plant them up in the spring and they'll do the same again next year. So that's really great about cannas. And yeah, that's all there really is to know. I'm going to look forward to these growing in the summer. Thanks for watching my video.